Hello there everybody, Sam Strains here, welcome back to the railway. I've been excited about this video for a little while, looking forward to this for some time. Today I'm going to do a bit of a steam extravaganza with some Pacific steam locomotives. So Pacific locomotives, or 462 locomotives, were a complete staple of our steam railways over here in Britain. You could argue that the two world's most famous steam locomotives are both Pacifics from Britain. Those are, of course, Mallard, the world's fastest steam locomotive, still unbeaten to this day, and of course the beloved Flying Scotsman that everybody has heard of. Of course, though, there were many classes of Pacific over here in the UK during the steam era, and we're very lucky because the various model railway manufacturers have produced loads of them for us to buy, and that's what I'm going to do today. I've got almost 50 of them to show you today. It's not every one I own because my sidings just aren't big enough, but I've got a huge number of them to show you today, so it will be a whistle-stop tour, and then of course I will choose about 6 of them and get those running at the end. So this should be fun. There are going to be loads of Pacifics on display today, so if you like them, stay tuned, this should be fun. Okay, let's give it a try. Alright then folks, well here they are. This is most, not all actually, but most of the Pacifics in my collection, and as you can tell I've got a problem. Yes, I wasn't kidding. There are absolutely tons of them. It's a veritable sea of Pacifics, or a Pacific Ocean, if you will. So, crikey. Anyway, so let's start off then with the LMS Pacifics. This one's very recognisable. It is the Coronation class. This is the recent release from Hornby. Very beautiful, that one, Queen Elizabeth. And then we have the slightly older sort of 2001 release of the same class there, Princess Alexandra, that one. Then we have yet another of the sort of older loco-driven Hornby ones. That one is the City of Birmingham, very lovely. Then in the same livery, but a much older model, we have this one. This one's King George VI, I think it is. That is the Triang version in the gloss. As you'll notice, it's quite a lot shorter than the previous Hornby ones I showed you, and that was a common criticism of those. They were a bit too short because they used a standard Pacific chassis that most of Triang's locos used, so that's pretty interesting. And then behind it there you can see we have another one. This is a custom. I think it's in an LMS black, but it's quite attractive that you don't often see LMS black streamlined coronations, which is cool. And then if I carefully bring you over here, you can see the last of my Triang coronations. I think that one is just coronation, which is pretty cool. Then, of course, we have the unstreamed version of the same locomotive. So there's City of London, that's a Wren one. We have City of Nottingham, that is a Hornby one, a bit more super detailed that. We have City of Stoke-on-Trent, that is another Wren one, made of metal, of course, very mighty those. And then that one, which is, I think, is City of Birmingham. Oh no, Duchess of Rutland. How wrong I was. And the BR Green, which is very lovely. And then if I just come between the beams there, you can see we have another one, and that one is the City of Glasgow. That's another Wren. So why I've got so many coronations, I don't know. I forgot how many I had, actually. I don't know how many that is. It's about 10, though, isn't it? Which is obviously ridiculous. But they are lovely, one of my favourite classes of Pacific for sure, and also one of the most famous. Down in the front then we have another different LMS design of Pacific. It's similar, but it is, alas, a different design. It's the Princess class, so we have this one, Princess Elizabeth, that's the latest Hornby release. Then we have the other Princess Elizabeth I have, which is the older Hornby release. Still beautiful, of course, but a little bit more dated, that one. Then we have Lady Patricia, the same thing but weathered in BR blue, which is beautiful, I think. And then, if I come around the beam, we have this beauty here, which is Turbo Motive, based on the Triang Princess class, but somebody cleverer than I, anyway, took one of those and converted it into Turbo Motive. More on that later on. Behind it then we have the original Princess. This was one of Hornby's, effectively Hornby's first locos. Technically speaking it wasn't, obviously the Hornby Dublo range or Dublo range existed long before these came out, but yeah, as Hornby are today, this is the first of the plastic models. And then we have another one, the Princess Royal, just behind there, same loco in the maroon. And just behind that, you might just be able to see it there, we have the green version, which is Princess Elizabeth, I think, as well. So yeah, it's quite nice in the green. And speaking of green, we're now going to move on to the LNER, the most famous of the big four for their Pacifics. We have the first one here, which is the Woolwinder. I forget now whether some of these are A1s or A3s. I think the Woolwinder's an A1, or at least that's what it says on the box. Bucklaw is the next one. Again, I think that's an A1, or well, I'm not sure. It's probably an A1 or an A3, not sure. Then we have WP Allen, which is also an A1, I believe, but that's a peppercorn A1. And then we have Bachelor's Button here, which is an A2. That's Thompson A2, although peppercorn had a bit to do with them. And then in front we have the Peppercorn A1, which of course is a separate design from the Gresley ones. We've got a few of these Hornby ones. That one's Tornado in the British Railways lined green. And then we have the BR Blue version just behind there. I'll have to put the camera around the back so you can see that. Yeah, lovely Locos there. At the back then we have the A3 Flying Scotsman. That's got the sort of banjo dome, which I think would make this an A3, although I'm not an expert on that. So if that's incorrect, please let me know. That's an old trying one. Just like this one, this is the same model, but in BR green, another trying one. Love that. And now we're on to the A4, another of the famous LNER Pacifics. We have Mallard there, that's a Wren one. We have Golden Eagle here, which is the sort of LNER lined green liveried version of the same model. Love that livery, it's great. Then we've got the super modern Hornby Mallard, which is a super detailed one. Love that one. And the same thing here, that's another Golden Eagle, but in the BR Blue. Again, what a beautiful, beautiful livery that is. Really, really love that one. Up to the top again, we have Gadwell. That is a Hornby Railroad one, just like the one in front of it there. That is Mallard in the BR green. That's very nice. Then we have some of the slightly more rubbish Bachmann A4s, which are not very good models, but they do look pretty good. So we have that one there, which is another Golden Eagle. This is a more modern version of the LNER lined green, which I think is great. And then we have my only silver A4, which is Silver Link there, which looks great. Again, that's another Bachmann one. I thought then it would be good to represent Thomas and Friends in this video somehow, because people get cross when I don't. So we've got Gordon. There is, of course, one other Pacific from Thomas and Friends that I haven't included, but I do own, so let me know down in the comments if you can think which one that might be. With that, though, let's move on to the Southern Railway, back up to the top with this. This is Camelford. This is a unrebuilt either Battle of Britain or West Country class. Given the name Camelford, I would guess West Country class. Then we have Tangmere there, which is the same class but a slightly different livery. That's a sort of darker, later BR green, which is lovely. Then we have, I've got loads of these trying ones, but I've just put one in to represent those. That one is Winston Churchill in the lovely Southern green. Then also in the Southern green we have the very rare Wren unrebuilt West Country class. That one is Plymouth. Look at the state of that one. What a Loco that one is. Absolutely lovely. Then we have the rebuilt versions of the same Loco. I only own Wren models of these. So this is the rebuilt West Country class. That is Barnstable. And that one there is Lyme Regis. So yes, two rebuilt West Countries. Then we have rebuilt merchant navies. At the time of filming this, I don't own any unrebuilt merchant navies, but they looked quite similar to the unrebuilt West Country class, so you can pretty much easily picture them. So that one's Canadian Pacific or Canpac, and then we have Bibby Line there, which is the BR green version of that model. And then on to some BR Pacifics, British Railways. We have the Standard 7, that is Anzac there, that is the modern Hornby one. Check out my review if you haven't seen that already. Then we have the older version of the same model. This is the Trying one. It's a few generations back, this one. I think that one's Owen Glendower. So yes, quite a nice glossy finish on there. And then we have the experimental sort of Standard Class 8, only Loco built, Duke of Gloucester. Quite interesting that. And I think that is every class of Pacific I own represented. If I have forgotten any, and that is a possibility, please do let me know down in the comments. But as you can see, that is quite a formidable army of Pacifics, isn't it? It's kind of crazy that. So I hope you like seeing those. I'm now going to choose a few of these to actually run. I'll put some nice trains together and we'll have a bit of a session. What do you reckon? Okay, let's do it. Alright, up first then I have picked the Merchant Navy class, and this is a beautiful design from 1941, and the class was Oliver Bulleid's first class of Pacifics, although he only produced two I believe, so it's not really that many. As well as being highly unusual in appearance, they also ran on chain-driven valve gear initially, although this did carry a fair share of problems. Nonetheless, 30 of the Merchant Navy class were produced during the remainder of the 1940s, and during the BR period, the streamlining, or the air smooth casing as it was officially known, was removed, and the Locos were rebuilt with traditional Walschaerts valve gear, as seen on these models. So yeah, presumably the chain-driven valve gear wasn't a great success. Quite interestingly, 11 of the class still exist today, which is a huge number, though sadly Bibby Line was sadly cut up along with the rest of the class. So there you have a Bibby line, everybody, an absolute beauty, and I did want to run Bibby line this time because I would say 80% of the time I run Merchant Navies. It's always Canadian Pacific, so that makes a nice change. For now though, let's move on to the next Pacific of today. Next Loco then is coming in now. It is the Britannia class. I did a review of this one not long ago, so check that out if you're interested. The Britannia class was also known as the Standard Class 7, and it was a BR Standard Pacific design used by British Railways alongside the similar looking Class 6 and Class 8s. Both of those were Pacifics as well, but only one Class 8 was built. The Britannias were introduced in the early 1950s when 55 were built to the design of Robert Riddle's. The design drew from many successful locomotives of years gone by using similar but upgraded boilers and fireboxes as used on the Merchant Navy class, so the first two Locos are definitely connected, but with a much simpler two-cylinder design. As a BR standard, efficiency, lightweight and serviceability were all priorities, and as a result they were very popular with crews in some areas. Some areas did not like them so much apparently. Despite this, it would be barely 10 years following the completion of the class before withdrawal began, and by 1968 all members of the class had been withdrawn from service, all except 2 were cut up and scrapped. There you go, and the one thing that the first 2 Locos have in common, of course, is that they both did do goods as well as passengers. Most Pacifics tended to just do passengers, but that's not the case with these first 2, so yeah, little fun tidbit of a fact for you there. Okay, up next we have another lovely Pacific, this time from the LNER. It is the A2/3, a Thompson design, not a Gresley of course, and the Thompson A2 was a modern class of steam locomotives introduced just before nationalisation in 1946. 15 examples were built in that year for express passenger work. The A2s were built at Doncaster, but only the first of the class was completed before Edward Thompson retired. The rest of the class were produced under Thompson's successor, which was Arthur Peppercorn, who decided to make some modifications to the design shortly after. The class was said to perform reasonably well, but there were a few minor reliability issues apparently caused by large unsupported gaps in the wheelbase. After a reasonably short life, the A2s were withdrawn during the early 1960s, and very sadly none of those were preserved. Alright, so there we go, the first 3 Pacifics, quite modern I suppose. Yeah, most of these are pretty modern, so I'll see if I can't get some slightly more old-fashioned Pacifics in on the next section, although at least one of them's reasonably modern. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed seeing those. I will clear these off then and put some more on for you, and I will see you in just a second. Alright, don't go anywhere folks. So up next then we have yet another LNER Pacific. I'm just in the mood for LNERs today, and of course the LNER were most famous for their Pacifics. So this one is an A1. These were introduced the same year as nationalisation occurred in 1948, also to the design of Arthur Peppercorn. At this time the demand for stronger and faster locos was great as ever, and the ageing Gresley A3s were struggling with the task. As a result, a new class of A1 was ordered. Edward Thompson had initiated the new design during the LNER days, just like with the A2/3, but Peppercorn is widely considered as the chief designer, and the order wasn't completed until well after nationalisation had occurred. The final design produced a powerful 3-cylinder locomotive capable of hauling heavy 15-coach trains at speeds of up to 70 miles an hour. 49 of the Peppercorn A1s were produced in total, but just 17 years later the entire class had been withdrawn and scrapped to make way for the new diesel, so this is another design that didn't last all that long. Although none of the originals survived, of course, a brand new Peppercorn A1 was completed in 2008 and named Tornado. I'm sure you've heard of that one. And this was based on the Peppercorn design, but also some new improvements. So it wasn't entirely faithful to the original design. So there you have it, the A1, and of course those Bachmann models have got a certain presence on the track. They're very heavy, very beefy, very powerful. Overall I'm very fond of those. Yeah, cool looking loco. Alright, nice. Let's move on then, loco number 5. Up next then, here's one that you might think is a bit of a strange choice, but it is the Turbo Motive. Not a modern loco, this is a kind of kit-bashed one, as I say. But anyway, this was a single loco in real life, only one produced, designed by William Stanier for experimentation purposes. So rather than using conventional cylinders, this locomotive ran on turbines, thus eliminating the need for a valve event system, as a steady stream of steam was all that was required to produce the motion, so valve gear, yeah, all goes out the window, not necessary. This being the case, a separate, smaller turbine was necessary to reverse the locomotive though, so yes, it's a bit more complicated where that's concerned, and because of that smaller turbine size, it was a lot less powerful in reverse than in forwards. The Loco was reasonably successful as far as performance was concerned though, but since so much time and money had already been invested into conventional cylinder technology, nothing really ever came of turbine-powered locomotives, although there were one or two designs out there. As a result, Turbomotive was rebuilt into a Princess-class locomotive number 46202 Princess Anne, and very soon after, the engine was destroyed in an accident and never repaired. So it's a sad story in the end, really. So there you have it, folks, Turbomotive, and you'll notice if you listen, she really doesn't like that bit of track just there on that curve. I think it's because there's some ballast sort of sitting on the sleepers, and the big flanges touch it and make a rumbling noise, so I might have to try and get rid of some of that. Either way, one more Loco still to show you, and it is a real classic. I'm sure you can probably guess, let's be honest, what it's going to be. Here she comes. And last but by no means least, we have possibly the most famous Pacific ever produced in Britain. It is, of course, the Flying Scotsman. So the LNER A1 started life on the Great Northern Railway in 1922 when they were designed for mainline passenger work by the legend Sir Nigel Gresley. The A1 was intended to perform tasks that the ageing Atlantics of the Great Northern were beginning to struggle with, and during the 1920s Gresley experimented with various modifications to his A1 design, including major changes to the valve gear, new boilers capable of higher pressures which also had more superheater tubes as well, and also changes to the cylinders. So these modifications produced a souped up version of the A1, and this was reclassified as the A3, as most of us know, also known as the Super Pacific at the time. Over time, all of those A1s that were built were rebuilt into this improved design, but it wasn't done very quickly. The process wasn't completed until the very end of the 1940s, so it took a long while. In total, 78 were produced, and only one of those remains in preservation, of course, and it is this one, the most famous of them all, the Flying Scotsman. She was built in February 1923 and is the only member of the class that can still be seen today. So there you are then, folks, a day with my Pacifics. I've absolutely loved that. Aren't Pacifics wonderful things? I don't tend to give them very much attention on this channel, but yeah, today I think I've changed that, which is pretty cool. So as you know, I can't use polls anymore on the videos, so I will have to put up one on my community tab. You just visit my channel, click community, and then you can vote and choose which Loco is your favourite. I can have a maximum of 5 options, and I've run 6, so I'll have to merge 2 together, unfortunately, but still it should give some idea which Loco is the most popular of the Locos I've run. And feel free to comment below which is your favourite as well. That's another option if you don't want to be counted in the poll. For now though, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you all very, very soon. Alright, cheers everybody. Take care.